Hello, my name is Adrian Melendez, and I am the director of Habesha project in Mexico.
Nice to meet you, Mr. Adrian. Thank you so much for being here today. I would like to start by asking you to tell me more about your organization. What are your main objectives and the services that you usually provide?
Okay, so Habesha project is a civil society humanitarian initiative from the Mexican civil society, and it was created in 2015 with the aim to provide opportunities, higher education opportunities for Syrian refugees who saw their study, their plans, their education plans interrupted because of the conflict in the Middle East. So that was the initial purpose to create this pathway for young Syrians in the Middle East who could then come to Mexico under a comprehensive program, which includes the travel, after selection, the travel, the visa, the reception, an intensive Spanish course for 1 year to have the level to access the university, and a living allowance, a full scholarship, etc. So that was in 2015, and after 15, 16, 18, 19, and after 5 years of implementation, we expanded our program to also accept refugees who were already in the country, in Mexico, and I'm talking mostly about people from Central America and Venezuela who, for some reason, are asking for who are in Mexico and are also asking for asylum here, and they can either be refugees or asylum seekers. So this new project that we differentiate from the initial one, from the Syrian one, we call Habesha Americas. So this is the second project we have. So we have basically two main projects: Habesha project, which refers to complementary pathways. So people coming from abroad, people that we bring from abroad to Mexico, and Habesha Americas, which is the project that serves the refugee community already living in Mexico. So these are our main projects, and then we have other. We have another small project funded by the Canadian Embassy in Mexico, which help us to reach out to universities in Mexico with the aim to create a national coalition of universities that a national coalition of Mexican universities that should or that want or that desire to participate in this movement, and they do it by reducing obstacles, barriers for refugees to access their institutions. So all our work is around higher education and the possibility for refugees to access the system in Mexico.
Oh, that's really interesting. And can you tell me, please, more, how are usually the scholarship financed? Like you just mentioned, you have expanded the scope of your work, so I assume that you would be needing more finances and more money to support the people, like especially the refugees and the asylum seekers. Do you usually rely on fundraising, or can you tell me more about that?
Yes, we have different sources of funding. Initially, as it was born, the project, we were running mostly on fundraising in Mexico. So either through crowdfunding campaigns or by organizing activities, events, and talking to business persons who have some interest in the region. We reach out to the Lebanese community in Mexico, which is a large community, or other people who had an interest in this project. So they were the main financiers. Now, as we grow, it was no longer enough to depend on this fund and these sources. So we receive international funding and institutional funding, mostly from UNHCR. In Mexico, we became UNHCR implementing partners in 2019. And so that's our main source of funding. but also we have the funds from the Canadian Embassy, and we have received other funds from other organizations and foundations in the United States and in Europe. So this is how we finance ourselves. It's still one of the main challenges of the organization to continue identifying the funds required to run the project. But I mean, but this is part of the evolution we are going through.
That's really nice. I can imagine how challenging it can be just to find enough support and funding for such initiatives, which are much needed nowadays. And you mentioned that you are a civil society humanitarian initiative. So can you tell me more about your staff? Are they like on voluntary basis, or do you have some recruitment process? What's more the administrative and organizational function?
So when we started, we were all volunteers. I mean, and we're volunteers because we were not getting paid, or but we were full-time staff. So from the beginning, I mean, in my case, when I started this project, I was full-time, dedicated fully to this activity. I didn't have any other activity, but I didn't have funds to cover it myself. I was running with my own funds myself, and then we had other people join. And I mean, literally moved to the city where we are based, and also they came as volunteers. I mean, full-time volunteers, people who we really engaged into this initiative, and we were running like this for years until 2019. That's when we were able to start receiving a very modest salary that we managed to establish for ourselves. We were a team of 5 people. Now we are 18 people. And wow. When I say 18, is people, I will consider this everyone who is dedicated fully to the project. And there is most of us are people with as I mentioned, this modest salary. And we have others. I mean, in this 18, I'm also including someone who is part-time, such as our graphic designer, right? Who is very engaged, and he's been with us for years. But he is not. I mean, he has a second job. I mean, or Habesha is not his main source of income. So we have 3 people under this situation. But yeah, now it's a team that is actually very composed and very integrated. We work as any organization, so we have an administrative area. We have a communication coordination. We have a programs coordination. We have an accompaniment coordination, which is responsible to follow up on the students. And we have a project development coordination, which in this case is 1 person.
Yeah, in the end, your work is invaluable. Like no salary can match the impact you're doing on the people and the refugees that are benefiting from your program. Speaking about them, how can you tell me more? How many students have accessed or graduated from college as a result of your program? And you also mentioned the mentorship. Like how do you usually follow up and assist those who are the beneficiaries from your program? So I would like to know more about that.
So in total, we have, including those who have graduated, I mean, we're talking about 55 students, 56 students. I'm sorry, I don't have this count number, but above 50 students. From those, only 3 have graduated from master program. I don't mention, but we have a bachelor, and we accept also master program, and so most of them are still they have not graduated. So actually, the first who is going to graduate from bachelor is going to happen this year, and after this year there will be graduation every year because now, I mean, because of the 5 years studies in Mexico, and those who have graduated are those who were in the master program. So we have 3 graduated from master in Mexico. They are all doing amazing. I mean, they, like, for example, the first person who graduated is working now for UNHCR in Mexico. So this is one. Then we have another one, a girl who graduated, and after she went on continue her studies, and she got a scholarship in Mexico for a PhD, and it is on her own merits. This PhD is no longer part of our program. It was herself who applied, and got the scholarship, and she did her thing. And the other guy is working in technology. I think he's in Google. It's not Google, but something related to in Mexico.
And are you planning to create like an alumni committee or something to stay in touch with your graduates? Or is there any, I know like from some scholarship that set certain conditions on their on the people who benefit from them. Like, for example, you have to stay in Mexico for 2 years after you graduate, or you have to go back to your home country and give back to what you've learned. Are there any conditions or anything that alumni or beneficiaries from your program should abide by after graduating?
Yes, and in this case, we didn't. I mean, our project has been evolving a lot, and so the scholarship is regulated in a document we call what is it? Like the rules of the scholarship, the scholarship contract. I don't. It doesn't. I don't know the title in English, but this document which they signed before coming establishes very well what are the rights and obligations of the students and what are the rights and obligations of the organization, so they know what to expect and they know what we expect from them. And so these rules have been changed 3 times. I mean, the project has evolved, and this document has also evolved with it. And so those who graduated now and those who will graduate in the next years came under the first model. And so then we have a second group that went on the second model, and then we have those who arrived last year and those who will continue arriving in the future come under the third model. So the first model is the most comprehensive because there is no change in terms of the allowance they receive. There is little obligation. There is less rules, and so they are not obliged. They are not obliged to pay back anything to the project or anything. And this is something that has changed in the new models. So it is in the plans of the organization to create a committee of representation for students, like those students who are enrolled in Habesha. We will work. This is an objective for this year to design an organism that can represent the students within the organization and that can help the students also to channel their concerns or their needs, and also to create other kind of activities to empower them and to prepare them in other fields, public speaking or any other things. We organize other kind of training. So we want to have this organ, but also we want to create this alumni committee or organism where we can continue being in touch with our students and we can continue networking, or our students can, our graduate students can support the ongoing students, etc. And this is in the plans. This is very important for us. With those who have graduated, we're very much in contact because this program is very familiar. I want to say familiar in the sense that they come from Syria, and before they go directly to university, they spend 1 year learning Spanish in the city where we are based, which is a very small city, very accessible city. And basically we kind of live very close, and we see them every day, and it becomes very familiar. So now that after they spend this year in Aguascalientes in central Mexico, then they move to another state where they choose their field of study, and the field of studies available in certain university. So for this reason, we still are with this kind of the first. We knew them so much. We were their friends, and it was living with them basically every day. And actually, I said we were almost living like them. No, in those years we were living in the same house. So we rented a house in this city, where the staff that came to work for Habesha, the Mexican recent graduates came here, and because they didn't have salary, or they have a very, very modest allowance, I offered them the house, and the only house we had is the house the students use. So in one house there was the student residence, there was the staff residence, it was the office, and we also had a classroom. So it was a crazy house, but literally we were living with them. And so we created a very special relationship with those students that came in the first years, because staff were sharing the bathroom, this, that. Like roommates, Yeah, also keeping in mind that the people that were working for the project were recent graduates. So they were 24 years old, 23. And the students, the Syrian students had the same age. They were also 23, 20. I mean, in generally, they were older than the staff. So there was kind of, there was this possibility to live together. Of course, that's in the past. Now we have two residences, one male residence and one female residence, which is just for the students. And now I mean, there's more rules and everything has evolved to become more institutional. And I mean, we're still in this process.
I think that would help and facilitate the process of integration, especially of refugees coming from Syria or conflict zones. And do you usually, like, throughout the program, once the and the scholarship period, do you usually have extracurricular activities or some mentorship program that the students are enrolled in that are outside the scope of the university? Something between you and them, like the program?
And you mean for those who graduated or those who are enrolled?
No, those who are enrolled, like those who are still benefiting from that.
Yes, we started, when was that? Last year, or even the year before, 2000. The last year was 2020. In 2019, we started organizing we started organizing conversation, talks, workshops about leadership. We have organized other workshops or trainings, or I don't know how to call them, on how to say, like sexual abuse, harassment, and consent. I mean, these kind of things to to involve in this concept, because as you can imagine, concepts are very different. We have organized, yes, and we organized, I mean, we brought people like our project is very modest because we have very limited in funds, but we are very rich in terms of network. So we are connected with very high level people in Mexico City. And so, for example, I remember we brought one of the very renowned historians from Mexico to our city to give a talk about the, I mean, because in this case he's Lebanese descent. The historian, his name is Carlos Martinez Assad, and he came, and him himself being Lebanese descent, we talk about the history of in Mexico receiving people from the Middle East. And so we organize things like that. We have organized, yes, we have organized many activities, but they're still very depending on volunteer people who want to come or who want to participate without remuneration. So even since last year, we started organizing an annual leadership meeting, a little bit imitating WASP, because we are very much trying to follow the system of WASP. So since 2019 and even last year with the pandemic, we organized some sort of small leadership meeting where we brought students, all the students, and we do a week of activities where we do these trainings. We want to expand this, and we want to make it more professional, and we want to make it, we want to fund it. I mean, that's of course the limitation, the funds, but we do want to create a more robust set of activities and programs for everyone. But it is definitely part of what we do now, as I repeat, in a very limited way. But we are planning on we are actively seeking funds to build this component.
So now one can say that the main barrier that you're facing is mainly in funding. Are there any barriers or problems that or challenges that you're facing within the society, or just by working or ensuring enough scholarships, or maybe integrating the students within the community, or coordinating with universities?
So of course there is many challenges. I wouldn't reduce all the challenges to financial, and we have overcome many challenges. Of course, the project has grown. We have gained some credibility in Mexico and internationally, of course. And so the obstacles of the past are not the same the obstacles of today. In terms of the students, of the integration, for example, we realized that depending on the nationality, of course, and depending on the personality of each individual, we have realized that some of them, that even though they are having very successful academic performance, and they are doing very well, and they already been in the country for years, and they already speak Spanish fluently. I feel they still haven't fully integrated, and sometimes we ask, and they don't have many friends, or they don't understand some things, which should be by this time they should be clear question that should not be questioned. So I see there is a challenge of integration, which of course has to go with we have to go back to the initial phase when they are in Aguascalientes. How can we prepare them better? I mean, through workshops, through travel. Like for example, imagine I dream of being able for them to travel a little bit within Mexico to see the diversity of this country, et cetera, et cetera. We have so this is of course a challenge. Now we always running out of scholarships. I didn't mention, but our universities, we sign agreement with universities where they commit to waive 100% of the university fees, and so we passed from having one university to having 4, then we had 8, and up to date we have 21 universities in our network that provide full scholarships, public and private, in 8 different states in Mexico, basically covering all fields from medicine, engineering, communication, social sciences, different blend programs. So our offer is very, very large, but as we grow, and especially now that we are opening a new call for application for Habesha Americas, we are receiving a lot of applications, like too many. And so we expect that the number of scholarships, we are always running out of scholarships. So we have to expand our network, or we have to go back to our network and ask them to increase the number of scholarships that we're giving. So we are reaching also a limit there. But of course, every time we are under pressure, we expand this network. So this is another challenge. And I mean, this is the challenges I see now. I mean, but the project now is running well. Every area is well defined. Our processes are well defined. But we are still in a process of evolving and continue building the organization.
Thank you for the clarification. Actually, what advice you would have for displaced students themselves who want to go to college, like and who are applying to your program, especially that nowadays you told me that you have a call for application. So what's usually the advice? What are the things you're looking for? What are the criteria?
Yeah, so we also evolve in our selection process. I mean, thinking of the past, the first students that were selected, anyone who applied, and we were so happy to receive students, and we didn't, our criteria were very flexible. We did have an interview, but there was no age limit. There was no you didn't have to have the best grades, or to be very strong in your academic background. And again, working with WASC, we redefine all our selection process. WASC in our experience, because we also gained an experience in the selection and interview, and we went through our own experience, which taught us some elements that we should keep in mind while selecting. So we make a combination of our learning experience, our lesson learned, and we also work with WASP, and we had basically they share with us all their criteria, how they select. We conducted several interviews with the WASP interview team, literally with I don't remember the name, but there was two persons who are doing the interviews, and we held sessions with our teams, with our team in Mexico, who is actually doing the interviews, and we redefine all our system of selection. We redefine the questions, we redefine the criteria. I mean, we basically have exactly the same documents as was in terms of selection. I mean, the same criteria they use to score the interview is exactly the same. We did the same form, just translated to Spanish and maybe some a little adaptation. And our criteria today is basically there is an age, there is the criteria of age, there is the criteria of minimum documents you must have. So at least you must have a birth certificate, you must have a high school diploma, and this is all you need. This is all you need to in terms of paper. We are trying to reduce as less things as possible. Then we do the interview, and we look at other criteria. The most important criteria, and this is what we were discussing now that we're opening this new call. We do have now the students, for example, they have to do a cover letter, and they have to, they have to provide cover letter, and they have to write an essay on a certain subject. So that's also part of the process. Then if they have a letter of recommendations, it's not obligatory, but it's welcome. And then we pass to the interview. In the interview, we look at different criteria. I mean, again, age. We look at the interest of studying. We look now at their background. We look at the family situation. Do they have any dependents? If they have, for example, a dependent on Syria or in Honduras, where they have to be sending money, this is a very risk factor, a very risky factor, because we know by our experience that once they are in the project, they receive the scholarship, they send it back, they don't have money, etc. So there is this criteria. However, we have one we call king criteria or queen criteria, as you want to call it, which is if there is a student, a candidate, an applicant that does not fit any of the criteria. Let's say he's 30 years old, which is above our age. He has not very strong academic background. He doesn't have the best grade when he was in high school. He has family in Syria, and he is responsible of the family in Syria. I mean, if we come across one candidate that does not fit the criteria, but has one element, which is a proven desire to continue their higher education, then we say selected, no matter what. This is the most important. If we manage to believe that, or if the candidate managed to make us believe that he is really serious and that his really goal is to study, for us, this is the most important criteria. And we say that because we have come across with cases, or actually, I would say most of our cases are people who would not be selected in any other project whatsoever. I mean, there is cases that under no circumstances they could have been selected in any other project in Mexico or any place in the world. And when they come and because they have this real desire, they are doing amazing, and they surprise us, and they just prove that they are proof that the important thing is this desire to study. I mean, and I'm thinking of very different cases. People who were in a refugee camp, who were from, I'm talking Syrians, people from refugee camp who come from rural areas in Syria, whose parents had never been never went didn't have formal education. They didn't speak English well, or they didn't speak Spanish, or I mean, they didn't speak any language but their language properly. I mean, we don't require the language skills. I mean, really cases that it was not possible to pass an interview, a formal interview with WASC or with this or with that, and we select them, and they come and they do amazing. So we want to be that project that selects people that are not fit for other projects, but that we believe have the desire, the possibility, and the capacity to undertake this higher education, and it's been successful. And if I think of the cases, I don't think a few of them would pass a formal process, a normal, a traditional process. We do have some cases which are very strong, and they could be accepted in any university around the world. But this is not the majority of our cases, and they are doing, again, amazing. They are doing very well, and these are the best cases that we have.
Yeah. As we're still running out of time, I just would like to ask you one more question. That what do you think is unique about your program, and what recommendations do you have for members of the U.S. university community, or to other initiatives that are working on providing scholarships in order to promote refugee access and integration into higher education?
Okay, what is particular of our project? There is too many things that will make us special. I mean, any project like this is special in itself, no? Right? Like if you look at WASC, it's amazing. They provide permanent scholarship, permanent residence in Canada, etc. In our case, there is several things, elements that make us special. One, it comes from Mexico, and it's a non-traditional actor in this field. So it's already, I imagine when you're in Syria and you say Mexico, it's like, oh, I was not thinking of Mexico as a country where I would go. Then it is being from civil society and being born in very much poverty. I mean, the project I'm talking about, it was rooted very much in the society. So we still have a very large, this is a project that a lot of people feel part of it. Doctors who, like, for example, I mean, a doctor who we created a network of private doctors that we use in terms that we recur in terms when we need. And so as it is the case, there's so many services that we provide because of being part of being like grassroots, they say, right? So we are very grassroots organization. Now our project is extremely comprehensive, and I can say. And I mean, if I'm lying or if I'm making this up, maybe your interview will reveal it, and I would ask you to please let me know. But I do believe that this is the most comprehensive project that exists in the whole world for refugees. And I know because we've been in contact with most of them or with all of them in the world. And so this is the only project that selects you, gets you the visa, gets you the travel, house you, teach you language for 1 year, and then sends you to university, full scholarship, gives you living allowance for years, covers medical expenses, covers dental treatments, covers basically everything. And for a long period, for 5 years. And again, I repeat, another distinctive element is that this project is for those who would not be selected in other projects whatsoever. For us, it's like looking for jewels in the middle of the desert, like finding these rare persons who have a special, who are special in some way, and we want to make sure that they continue university. So this is what are the special, and what is my what could I say to colleagues from universities in the US and other people who want to participate in this kind of project is what I mentioned in other fora, and which is we, Habesha in Mexico, we are the evidence that there is no excuse not to do it. I mean, we in Mexico going through our own challenges in the country, etc. There is so much limitations, etc., etc., and we are able to provide the most comprehensive program available out there. So, what is the excuse for a US-based university, or what is the excuse for a group of students not to do it? I mean, what is the obstacle that you have that we didn't have to implement this project? So, I mean, these are very beautiful projects which are clearly life-changing. I mean, there is so many projects that are implemented that we never know if they actually have an impact. It is very hard to measure the impact. Not in this case. In this case, we have a program that once the person goes through this project, their life will be changed forever, for their families, for their communities. They will be able to give back, etc., etc. And that is very clear. That is very evident. So these are very amazing projects. They're proven experience that can show that these are projects that change lives. And so there is no excuse for nobody, not to, especially for higher education institutions, not to engage in this kind of projects, and not to put excuse that is not possible, that administratively is not possible, that they cannot give scholarships, that they cannot. There is no excuse, and we are a very good argument to say that, because if Mexico can do it, I mean, why you cannot do it? I mean, why in the US you cannot do it if there is so much resources over there?
That's really nice. And what are your future plans?
We have 1,000 plans, but we are changing. What is for sure is that we want to continue institutionalizing our complementary pathways project. I mean, our Habesha project. I mean, again, to differentiate the project that brings people from outside to Mexico. We are working very, very much in hand with the UNHCR in Mexico to institutionalize this project. And what do I mean to institutionalize? For example, the selection process, the call for application, it will go through the UNHCR portal that was published, or that was set in online last year, and still, I don't think, still very much active. So we are moving all our selection process through this portal. We are creating, so the application form will be now online with all the, with all the criteria that also, that is being approved related by UNHCR. So this is to have a more transparent and competent process. We are formalizing agreements with all the people we are working with, especially with the government agencies that help us in terms of visas, that help us in terms of other processes, bureaucratic processes. We are signing MOUs with them. So even though we have a working relationship, and even though we don't need these MOUs to be working with them because we're already doing it, UNHCR wants us to formalize to be more institutional. So we'll be doing that. And of course, we are planning to expand to other countries. To receive application not just from Syria. We already have 2 cases from Yemen, but we want to expand this program to Middle East. Of course, we think of Syria, we think of Yemen, we think of Iraq, but we also, of course, look at South Sudan, and we're looking at Myanmar. And so we want this to be a window for any refugee around the world fleeing from a crisis to have this opportunity, regardless of the nationality. And so this is definitely in the map. It's already in the plans. It should happen. If not this year, next year, we should start already opening application for other nationalities.
I wish you all the best of luck. I think that's an amazing project and plan for the future. Since being from, I'm currently based in Lebanon, and being from the Middle East, I know how much the people are, especially in Yemen, in Iraq, and in Syria, are in need for such an assistance. And I think also what makes you unique, as you mentioned, that you're based in Mexico. And one last question, if I may, that are you facing any legal barriers or something from the government? Because as far as I'm aware, you're not the typical refugee hosting country, to my knowledge. So are there any challenges or barriers that are being put on by the government or some populist or right movement?
No, not in reality. Of course, we are very active in social media, and we are very active in these things. And of course, there is always comments, negative comments. But we have never faced. Our students, they have never so far, and I hope it will not happen. But everyone, their communities welcome them, and for example, where am I based in central Mexico? It's a very conservative. Not very, but it's a conservative part of Mexico. This central Mexico, and people are very welcoming, and people are nice and friendly, and they are curious, and people sometimes bring gifts of they write us messages they want to send. When they see somebody else arrives, we receive messages. I like to send a gift to the new person, people that we don't know. So no, we don't face that in terms of local opposition to our program. In terms of government, I can say the opposite, and especially in terms of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We have now created a very, very solid relationship with the embassies in the Middle East. And I can tell you, one of our main backers is the ambassador of Mexico in Lebanon, who is doing amazing things that go very much beyond his duties. He's been doing to support us. I can tell you, for example, in the last arrivals, there was this girl from Palestine. Syrian Palestinian, and she lives in Becca. Or she was living in Becca with her mother and her sister. She lost her father. She had some fears. She was very motivated, but she had some fears about it, and herself being the eldest sister, and so she was afraid to leave her mother alone in Lebanon. Anyways, the Mexican ambassador traveled to Becca to meet with his family and to just give assurances that everything is fine. So, and these kind of things. So we brought one. In the last, there was one girl in Damascus, and she had to travel to Lebanon, but the border was closed because of COVID. So ambassador got in touch with general security, and they were allowed to. Exceptionally, they were allowed to cross the border. The ambassador sent somebody to the border with Syria and Lebanon to help, because I think there was some problem. And then she had to get. All this process make sure delayed her travel, and and she has still had to go to the Panama embassy because she had to get a transit visa in Panama, but the embassy was closed, and so or was going to be closed. So the ambassador called his colleague, the ambassador of Panama, to stay open until she could get the visa. So they are doing like, I mean, it goes to the limit, to the heroic acting in terms of supporting this project. So we do count with this very solid support of the Mexican missions in the Middle East, some ambassadors, some people in the government who are actually who do exceptional things to make this project happen. So I mean, in that line, we are fine. Of course, this is something it was from the design. From the project design was to get involved with the Mexican authorities from the beginning. So it's been a relationship that has been building over the years, and now it's proving all this it virtues.